How are you? How are you? How are you? So I'm gonna hop straight into it. Today, the chapter that I'm reading, actually, can't just go hopping right into it. Okay. So, let us begin. So today, the Bible verse is 1 Kings chapter 5. 1 Kings chapter 5. I'm doing the whole chapter. I usually do the entire chapters in, sorry about this. I usually do the entire chapters that I read. So chapter 5 goes, "And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had appointed him king in the room of his father. For Hiram was ever a lover of David. And Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, Thou knowest how. Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, Thou knowest how that David my father could not build a house unto the name of the Lord his God for the wars which were about him on every side, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. And now the Lord my God have given me rest on every side, so that there was neither adversary nor evil occurrent. And behold, I purpose to build a house unto the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord spake unto David my father, saying, Thy son, who I will set upon thy throne in thy room, he shall build a house unto my name. Now therefore command thou that they hew me cedar trees out of Lebanon, and my servants shall be with thy servants. And unto thee will I give hire for thy servants according to all that thou shalt appoint. For thou knowest that there is not among us any that can skill to hew timber like unto the Sidonians." So basically, he is commissioning Hiram to, I'm assuming hew means to cut down. He needs wood, he needs timber to build the house, and he's asking the Sidonians to do it. "And it came to pass, when Hiram heard the words of Solomon, that he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be the Lord this day, which have given unto David a wise son over his great people. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have considered the things which thou sentest to me for, and I will do all thy desire concerning timber of cedar and concerning timber of fir." Fir spelt F-I-R. "My servants shall bring them down from Lebanon unto the sea, and I will convey them by sea in floats unto the place that thou shalt appoint me, and will cause them to be discharged there. And thou shalt receive them, and thou shalt accomplish my desire in giving food for my household." So Hiram gave Solomon cedar trees and fir trees according to all his desire. And Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 measures of wheat for food for his household, and 20 measures of pure oil. Thus gave Solomon to Hiram year by year. And the Lord gave Solomon wisdom as he promised him, and there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they two made a league together. And King Solomon raised a levy out of all Israel, and the levy was 30,000 men. And he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month by courses. A month they were in Lebanon, and 2 months at home. and Adoniram was over the levy. And Solomon had 70,000 that bear burdens, and 80,000 hewers in the mountains. Beside the chief of Solomon's officers, which were over the work, 3,300, which ruled over the people that wrought in the work. And the king commanded, and they brought great stones, costly stones, and hewed stones to lay the foundation of the house. And Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders did hew them, and the stone squarers, so they prepared timber and stones to build a house. And chapter 6 talks about other provisions that were made for the house. So it gives things like measurements and how many feet high and wide and things like that. And they brought in someone special to do the brass work, and they talk about the stonework, and they talk about the fixtures that they put in, and they talk about the altar. And then chapter 7 talks about the fact that this house was, Solomon built a house for God and a house for himself, and it took 13 years for his house alone. And he was building houses for other people as well. So this part of First Kings really is talking about Solomon fulfilling the wishes of his father in King David, who spent his life fighting war and building a house for God. And the next chapter, just paraphrasing because I did read it as well, it talked about God talking about the fact that if his commandments are kept and if his word is kept, then he would be blessing over the children of Israel. And this was 418 years out of captivity, out of Egypt. And so in the 4th year of the reign of King Solomon is when he started building a house to God. And so I just want to talk about, I guess, what I can mention from this is, first of all, let me mention a couple things that this is just confirming, but things that I kind of already knew. You cannot build in war. You cannot build in a time of unrest in your life. Your focus really has to be on fighting a battle. Your focus has to be on winning a battle, and it is incremental. Oftentimes we expect to win something right away or to accomplish something right away, and things are step by step, but they're step by step for a reason. When you're fighting a battle, there are phases to this battle, and I call them, when you're fighting a war, I should say, there are phases in the war, and this is called battles. And battle by battle, you get through a war. You do not need to win every battle, because sometimes we think we need to win every single battle before us. Sometimes there's battles you have to sacrifice because they're not worth it. There are things that you have to sacrifice that are not worth your time. They're not going to yield results. I've talked about this before, where it's like you want to occupy fertile ground. You want to occupy strategic territory. You want to occupy territory that makes sense. When people fight wars for countries, they know that they have to occupy specific locations, or else it's a waste of time. They're going to be at a disadvantage in this war. And being at a disadvantage is like quite possibly the worst thing that can happen to you. They try to occupy coastlines because not only is it a good vantage point to see an enemy coming before they come, you get to realize, well, if I see someone at this shoreline, not even the shoreline, but at this part of the ocean, it's going to take this much time for them to get here. So you need to go and assemble troops. You occupy a shoreline, and then at that shoreline, you station troops so that you're never surprised when anything enters, day or night. You want to occupy high places, the tops of mountains, the tops of hills, because that's a vantage point, that's a viewing point. Not only is it a point of view, but that is typically also where they install cannons, because you want it high enough that when you fire it off into the ocean, it doesn't land on your territory, but it lands far enough that it lets them know that if they come any closer, if it doesn't land on them, it lets them know if they come any closer, they're not going to make it on shore. So you have the cannons going, you have your troops down there, you're set up. Why do people have lighthouses at coastlines? Not only do you want to be able to see out there at night, because they're going to be coming in at night. So you got this light going all night long, so you can see as things are coming in, and you can see what direction they're coming in from. This is how you strategically set yourself up. Does it make sense to set up fortresses in the middle of, let's say, a location? Not if they don't have planes yet, or planes do not exist yet. It doesn't make sense, because the chances of an attack coming from there are little to none. You want to set up in a place that it makes sense, and you want to occupy territory that it makes sense. So when you go about fighting a battle, you have to let go of trivial things. You have to let go of frivolities. It is important to not waste your energy on things that are not going to result in anything. A surefire way of knowing when you've lost something. Not all effort means that there's something that is being accomplished. So a surefire way of knowing when you have lost the war is when you're fighting to fight. There is no plan, there is no strategy, there is no goal, and there really is no thought, but to what end? Because if you think about everything that you do and you think about, but to what end am I doing this? If you think about to what end, and you realize that expending this energy is not going to yield the result that you need, then you are wasting time, you're wasting manpower, you're wasting resources, you're wasting effort. What happens when you waste all of this is it demotivates anybody who's helping you. It demotivates people because it is a demonstration of poor leadership, poor judgment, and poor resource management. The victories are hollow. They mean nothing. So you have to be strategic in your battle. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. In your battle, you have to be strategic in looking at what land am I going to occupy and to what end, and what am I going to get out of it. And you got to discipline yourself to always think about, what is my end result? What am I working towards? And can this be helpful or impactful to me? So in saying all of this, when you're at war, you are managing resources that are going to inevitably dwindle. A time of war is not a time of growth. And I explained this before. You think about real war, literal war. You're fighting. Where is the office to register documents? Where are the bookkeepers that are going to keep record of things? How do you do this? How do you do that? It's like all infrastructure is under attack. So there is literally not much that can be accomplished. Everything that you start working on will be attacked. So you're spending time fortifying everything. You're spending time protecting things. You're spending time building structures of protection, and you're not getting too far. So as you're in your battle, if you understand that you're in the middle of your battle, do not beat yourself up because you're not seeing growth. You're not seeing results. You're not seeing production. That is how it's going to go for the time being, until you are at a point of peace. Things grow in peace. They do not grow in chaos and in war. People who practice magic, they do things like, I've heard of road opener ceremonies or rituals where they cast these spells to open their roads. And why would you need that? Because your roads are blocked. You recognize that your roads are blocked. And it could be any road. It could be a love life. It could be finances, it could be work, it could be business, it could be friendships, relationships, whatever it is. But roads are blocked in your life. And so you need to assess, why is a road blocked in my life? Why is a road blocked in my life? Give me a second. You have to observe why roads are blocked in your life. And you have to make an assessment. Now, one of the possible assessments could be you're under judgment. You made some sort of spiritual offense which needs to be rectified. You insulted something or someone spiritually, and then that needs to be dealt with, or else no roads are opening. And that's just how it's going to go. The roads will not open. The second thing that you have to look at, if it's not karma and judgment, then where is the misalignment? Do I have an enemy? Am I under attack by someone? What is going on? You have to judge and assess what is blocking you, what is fighting you, and why this fight is persisting. So you have to assess the issue, you have to assess the damage, but most of all, you need assistance. One cannot fight a war alone. One should not fight a war alone, because one thing that you must first recognize is whatever is happening in your life physically is happening spiritually, or already happened spiritually. So this is why they always say spiritual work takes time, because whatever is happening in the 3D is a manifestation of what is happening spiritually. So you must fortify yourself in the 3D. You must fortify yourself spiritually. You must fight your battles spiritually, as well as in the reality, adjusting to what it is that you have prayed for, adjusting to what it is that you have come into, in order to, or not come into, but you are going to come into, in order to prepare yourself to receive. When New Age people talk about manifestation, they say, first you must manifest it, and then you must behave as if it has already happened. In other words, you know that it will happen because it's already done spiritually. And so now you want to put yourself in a situation where, if not spiritually, then at least, not if not spiritually, but once you believe that it happens spiritually, then in the physical, you're preparing for it. So if you've prayed for, I don't know, a flower to bloom because you want to make bouquets of the flowers, then you're going to do things like making sure you have vases, making sure that you have access to fresh water, figuring out where you're going to put the flower when it does bloom, making preparations for the prayers that you've made, not to be answered because you assume that it's been answered, but to receive the manifestation of your prayers, to receive what it is that you have prayed for. It works the same way regardless of your spiritual denomination, regardless of what is going on spiritually with you. Whether you're Hindu, whether you're New Age and you believe in like things, concepts like manifestation, whether you are Christian, it all works the same way. Once you send up signals and you truly believe that this will occur for you, once you send that vibration, that energy out, you prepare yourself to receive whatever it is that you've prayed for. So you don't do things that counter your prayers. For example, if you're praying to be healed from an illness, you don't do things that go against healing. You don't have behaviors that are not contributing to having what it is that you ask for. So you ask, and then you also fortify the prayers with physical activity. You fortify the prayers with your efforts as well. Today I want to talk about spiritual warfare. And I want to talk about how we get from there to here. So I want to start off with a story which I've told on my channel before, but today is a very appropriate day to tell this story. And so I'm gonna start probably from the beginning. Um, when my grandmother passed away, my grandmother, I wasn't able to be there physically. I wasn't in the country, and it really bothered me. And I mean, like, it made me panic. And I remember asking my aunt for um, the video of the burial, and I could never bring myself, even to today, and it's been a long time, I could never bring myself to watch it. And I couldn't forgive myself for not being there. And I wasn't the only one that couldn't be there, but I couldn't even attend the funeral. And I remember I kept praying about this. And at this time, I wasn't a person who necessarily was praying all the time, but I needed her to know how sorry I was. And I had never cut that emotional cord with her. And I was praying not to God, but I was talking to her in the spirit. And this was the first time that I prayed in a way where I wasn't just, it wasn't a Christian prayer. It wasn't like a formal prayer. It was me speaking to her in spirit as a person, like reasoning with her and telling her all of the issues that were in my way, all of the hurdles that were in my way, why it would not have been possible. Even if I had had time to know about it, why it was impossible, and just kind of giving her so many explanations as to like how this occurred, begging for her forgiveness, letting her know how sorry I was, that I should have been there, how important it was to me. And I remember there was one time where I went to see a psychic for whatever reason. And again, I wasn't even into this. My spirit just kept saying, go, 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 go. I kept thinking about it. Do I want to? Do I not want to? And I went. And that psychic was like, you're not this type of person. You're not a spiritual person. You're like a science person, she said. I will never forget that. She said, you're a science person, but you just came here for a message. And so she gave me her message. And then the only time, and I was very doubtful during the message, but the only time that I really got into this reading is when I was talking about when she was talking about my grandmother, and I said, does she forgive me? Does she know that I'm sorry? And this is when I start crying, and I got so emotional. And she's like, yes, she forgives you. She understands, and all this kind of stuff. And that was all I cared about. And so when she went into my grandmother, it's like it went from something that I just was doubtful in doing. I was very icy to the psychic in the beginning. And she was getting annoying because she kept asking me for confirmation. Do you understand? And I wouldn't give it. I was icy. And when my grandmother came up, then I loosened up completely. I was crying. Um, I went to go park my car in a more permanent parking spot. I stayed longer than the time. I overpaid her because I was just completely into it, and it made such an impression. And I wanted to go back again, and I talked about the fact that I couldn't find the place. But from there, it opened up a belief in me that, well, not really a belief, but I kept talking to my grandmother anyway. And it went from just prayers of forgiveness. There was always prayers of forgiveness involved, though. So it went from prayers of forgiveness to prayers of other things, just conversation, just including her in my day, including her in my life, and also with the prayers of forgiveness. So if I prayed at night, I would just talk to her. I talked to her in the day. I'd let her know what I was up to. I'd ask for help with things, and things kept working in my favor. And but it was something I kept to myself because it's something private, it's something personal, right? This is not for other people. This is a personal journey. So, and I didn't see it as a journey. It was just something that made me feel better, something that I needed to believe, because this was my only way of coping with the grief, of her not being physically, I not being able to physically access her anymore. So I went through that. And when I started being gang stalked, like overtly, because these people have been a thorn in my side for years. They have been so-called customers who have been very difficult and abusive. They've stolen from me. They've slandered me. They've tried to keep me from growing, all as retribution for me not joining their circle of demons. And anyway, so when these people became overt and they made their demand that I join their ranks, and because I did not want to, they started gang stalking me. So things that could not be denied: driving around my house in circles, driving past my house with the word BITCH written on the side of the doors, just coming into my business, doing things very strategically so that I notice, try and make me, afraid, always fear tactics. The first thing I did was the thing that I always do. I went into prayer talking to her. Now, at that time, I didn't know that was ancestral worship. At that time, I didn't know that what I was doing was invoking an ancestor. I did not know that. I just thought, well, since we're already talking, I might as well keep talking to you because I enjoy it. It gives me comfort. I didn't actually consider she's actually listening. I considered that when I pray, things happen. And so you'll say things like, well, people who have loved ones that pass away, we say things like they're always with us and stuff like that. But I didn't actually consider the fact, like in the way that I consider it now. I didn't see it in that way. And so anyway, the first thing I did was I let her know what's happening. I explained the situation. And I even remember, even times before that happened, it's like I would seek approval of her for certain things, be it a relationship, be it whatever it is. I would seek approval. And so sometimes I would feel like she doesn't approve certain things. Sometimes I feel like she's not on board with certain things, and it's like I use her as my gut. And if she doesn't approve, then I don't wait to ask why. I back off of things. And so nothing was louder than her disapproval or how upset she was. And I remember I went into the spirit and I prayed, and that was the first time that she came through in such a strong way, in that I can I know she's there. Like I can almost see her. And I remember at that time also my mother also came through, and I remember it was such a loving feeling, but she was holding back a bit. She wasn't like fully, like she was holding back a bit. And I remember, but she was always hooded and she wouldn't show me her face. And I remember one time I was like, Ma, I need to see your face. And she hesitated, but she showed me. And I remember seeing that she's not like human in the way that like I would have expected. Like she's not quite a person. But it didn't disturb me, it didn't scare me, but I did have some what would you call it? I did have some reservations because I was like, I don't know if this is safe. I don't know what I'm doing, but the vibration and the feeling I'm getting is very warm, but I'm just not sure for myself if I should open up to this energy. But she came with my grandmother, and I already trust my grandmother. So because I trust my grandmother, I trust whatever my grandmother says, whatever she does, I trust her feelings, because she has always warned me of danger. She's always let me know. There are even times where it's like mixed feelings where she's like, I don't approve of this, but this is necessary. That's like the feeling that I get. Like, we don't like this, but it's okay, continue. I already trust that she has my best interests at heart. So I am almost at arm's length with my own mother, and it's like, I accept you here. I know that you're here with me, but I haven't accepted her in my heart just yet. And so I'm working with my mother or with my grandmother, and then these people, I know what they're doing is energetic. I always knew it. I knew it from day one. I knew it from day one because I can see what they're doing from day one. I can see the energy manipulation. I can feel it. I can feel the bad energy around people. I can feel all, like, I saw, and I was unawakened in the way that I am now back then, but I can see it. Because if you're used to positive energy and positive vibrations, seeing bad luck and cursed energy is very loud, blaring like an alarm. They look like things are working for them on the outside, but you can see everything is fake. It's a facade. Behind the face is more things going on. They have secrets, they have lies, they are malicious, they are liars. And you see the evil almost as clear as I see this camera right now. You see it. It cannot be hidden. It cannot be cloaked. It is felt. It is strong with that group. Cursed group. You feel it. You feel it. When they come around, things break. I'm telling you, if you go in public, there are people who walk past a shelf and the shelf falls. There are people who walk past and people trip. They may not see it on themselves, but if you're standing back, you can see it. You can see it. They think that they can do something to show you or to not show you, or they can smile or they can whatever. You feel it overwhelmingly. It's like people would come in my store and I'm just like, that person's a liar, that person's a thief, that person's a this, that person's a that. It's very overwhelming being in public, to be honest with you. So I'm there, and one particular day, these people fight back my grandmother, and I almost get to the point where I feel like they're trying to overpower her. And I thought to myself, the audacity. And so at that point, I fly into prayer without hesitation, and I call in every bit of protection I could think of possible. And looking at it now, I thought that was an overreaction, because I thought, if I didn't know how much there was fighting back, but I just knew they put their hands on someone that's very important to me. And it was, at the time, I felt like I called in probably a little more than I needed, but I didn't call it down. I was like, oh well, they're here already, so it is what it is. But I called in, it's very early in the process, I called in so much protection, and they showed up. Like, they were coming in heaps, and they were confirming that they showed up. It was like an immediate answer. And then from there, it was like, well, I already went this far, so it was easy for me to accept my mother in my heart, because it was like, I see what's going on here. These people have a God complex. They fight ancestors in the spirit. They fight the dead. I was like, no, we're not gonna play these kind of games. And so as I was praying, they were pushing back. And two things happened from witnessing my grandmother fight like this. Number one, I realized that there is no backing down, because she didn't back down. She didn't get pushed down and leave or surrender. She struggled back. She fought back. So I learned how to fight just by observing that in that moment, just in that moment. And the second thing that I learned from her is, I forget the second thing. I thought of it, but I forget it. But maybe the most important thing I learned how to do was fight and be persistent. And I said to myself, well, if she's fighting, then I have to fight. she can't be out here alone and I'm like running around doing nothing and depending just on her. She's gonna need me. She's gonna need my effort. She's gonna need from me. So if I go to work and I'm asking her, can you help me make a sale? Can you help this happen? Can I get this shipment in time? Whatever it is, I can't just ask her and not help. I gotta help. It's like asking for something to come in and you're just standing there while they struggle with it on the shore. No, you're gonna run out, you're gonna get everybody, and you guys are gonna help the people struggling bring it in so that you can have it inside and say, it's here, it's in the warehouse, we got it done. So this battle went from standing on the outside watching for signs to me getting my hands dirty in everything, in every way, and celebrating every single win, big or small. So it didn't matter to me if I made $50 for the day. And from the outside, somebody would say, oh, she's not making money. She only made $50 today. To me, that's a big win. And that's a big win because my grandmother fought for that $50. I am so grateful. Because in my head, I'm like, I don't know what she had to fight to get that. I don't know what my mother had to go through to get that $50 here. I don't know what they had to battle to do this. So it becomes a daily battle doesn't feel like a battle. It feels like teamwork. It feels like teamwork. So we ended up from having candles that I light when I pray at home and having my space at home in my bedroom where I pray to having it in the back room at my store. And at the beginning and ending of every day, and even in the middle of days, we pray. We pray throughout the day. We have our candle lit and we pray. There were things I was doing symbolically that I wasn't quite even aware that I was doing. Things that were important that I didn't even understand were important. And so I just went through that journey. I went through that journey in gratitude because I could see them with me, fighting with me. We had protection everywhere. We had protection at the door. We had protection roaming in the store. We had the protection in the back room. It was a fortified space that though there were vultures outside, the inside of that space was warm. Despite having so much chaos sent our way, so much spell work sent our way, the space was protected. That space was more protected than my house, I realized. Where I was doing business was more protected than my house. So believe it or not, with that much going on, that much protection and everything happening, the space was warm. You could feel it when you walked in the space. People knew. So gang stalkers, though they were sent there for one purpose, to annoy and whatever, they weren't doing that. They were walking in there and it was almost like they were receiving some kind of healing, some kind of warmth. The energy was different with them. I recognized that what they were trying to accomplish couldn't be accomplished. That's why they had to give up and go above me, go above my leasing lady and get a permanent lease in our space in order to take the space from us, because they couldn't stop us if we remained in that space, because that was our space. That was destined to be our space, but that space was protected. So we are in a protected space. We are in a space where blessings abound, where there are spiritual warriors in there, and the prayers that are being prayed, whether I know it or not, are spiritual warfare prayers. These are prayers that are coming with, I'm going to refer to my notes. These are prayers that are coming with conviction. They are coming in with demands. These are commanding prayers. And these are prayers made with affirmative statements. These are tearful prayers. These are prayers of gratitude. I'm not worried about what people are doing. I'm not worried about cursing people. I'm not worried about any of that. I'm worried about myself. These are prayers that are saying, I see what you're doing and I'm so grateful, because I couldn't believe. I was like, the same grandmother that I could not be there for her funeral is the one who is here with me battling in the spirit. And I am so grateful every day that she is staying with me. It wasn't a feeling of entitlement, it was just gratitude that she could be here with me, that she's walking this with me. I was never alone. I never felt alone, regardless of if I was isolated or not. So as I called in my help, I realized that was a declaration of war. After a while, I had to carry my mother with me. I had to carry my grandmother with me. I had to carry my spirit team with me, because that's when it got intense, because these people didn't back down. They took it everything a step further and a step further and a step further. So I started realizing, first of all, listen, if they fight, I have to fight. And I need them to fight. So if I need them to fight, I gotta constantly come in the spirit and encourage them. I'm constantly letting them know how grateful I am for things. I'm constantly big or small. Like I said, if I made $50 in my head, I was like, listen, I'm up 50. I'm in the positive. And so there was gratitude for everything. There was trust. Now, don't get me wrong. The situation got worse and worse all the time. Things were dwindling all the time. Bad things were happening. And I know they were listening into my prayers, and I'm sure they were saying they were confused, because it wasn't crying. It wasn't trepidation. It wasn't like fear. It literally was, why is this person happy? Why are they praising? Why are they grateful? And we're destroying things around them. I realized that my prayer and my voice and my passion, I talk about war drums. I talk about the fact that back in the day, when people went to war, they would use drums. They would beat drums to motivate the army. If you ever listen to war drums, if you ever listen to a beat in music, they always talk about when the beat drops. When the beat drops is when everybody gets excited. Give me a second. So I started noticing that, or let me talk about the beat dropping in a song. You'll be there listening to a song, and then you'll hear when the beat drops. And that is when your momentum, your energy, it gets your body going. And that's the same way your voice is in prayer. You come into prayer and you give sad, lackluster prayers. That's the energy that they have to work on. Imagine taking people into war, and now you're giving lackluster prayers. You're not giving motivation. You're not pushing. You have to come into the spirit, or I came into the spirit always very upbeat, very motivated. I'm letting them know what we're going to do. I'm letting them know how it's going to go. I'm letting them know the outcome. I'm letting them know. And I started realizing they also depend on my energy in the way that I depend on them to fight. So this to me started being hand-holding, co-creation is what we call this. So in the same way, it's almost like, in a way, you're giving of your energy to your guides. You're giving them your energy. You're giving them your motivation. You're giving them all of that. What you give them is what they have to work with. So you got to give them a lot. So I gave them a lot. Give me a second. So you're giving them of your energy. You're giving them of gratitude. You're not worried about when is this going to be done? When am I going to see the big results? None of the above. You're just giving them your energy. Excuse me. So in a way, it's almost like, not in a way, but they depend on your energy and you depend on their work and you depend on their results. So in a sense, I'm the war drum. They're marching to the beat of my prayers, and I realize that. I gave them not just my energy, but my motivation, the sound of my voice, you know, all that I could give them. And let me tell you, I gave them so much energy, I was exhausted, I was depleted. I think to myself, I have prayed every prayer I could think of. I have said every affirmation I could think of. I had to start back from the beginning again. I have prayed, I have prayed, I have prayed, I have prayed. I've given them a lot. This is how it's gonna feel as a spiritual warrior. As you give this energy, it's gonna drain you, it's gonna deplete you because you're giving a lot and they need it. And this is how it works. If you're going to coach your spiritual team, and they don't need your coaching in the sense of like what to do or how to do it, but you're doing this with them and there is an energy transfer. If you're gonna do it this way, and this is the way you have to do it, we don't go in sad, we don't go in grumbling, we don't go in complaining. Imagine you have a general at war and all they do is complain, all they do is tell you about all the things that they cannot do, all the things that went wrong. It's demotivating. It's like, what are we doing this for? You got to give them positive energy. You got to give them hope. You got to give them praise. There's a song that says, praise will confuse the enemy, and I promise you they were confused. I know they were confused. It didn't make sense. This is supposed to make someone fearful, not stronger. I was stronger. I was pushing back. This was handled spiritually. So with everything that was happening, I was pumping up my spirit team and I was letting them know that I am here with you every step of the way. And it was a one-day thing. Every day was a new day. But the overwhelming feeling was gratitude. My focus wasn't on other people and what they were doing. My focus was on being grateful. My focus was on letting them know I saw what you did. Every little thing I saw that, I saw that, I saw that. And it went from prayer in the end of the day, in the morning, to like all day, in the middle of the day. Prayer was a habit, not was, is. I will pray all day. I'll pray in the store, I'll pray on the drive. I talk to them all day because what else am I gonna do? Who else am I gonna talk to? I don't call anyone. I know I can see now that I need to be isolated. I don't call anyone. I don't talk to anyone. I'm on my own, and this is my battle, and I'm fighting through it. I don't have resentment to anyone. I'm sending up prayer requests. I'm sending up things that I want. I need them to work on things for me. I'm asking them, what do you need me to do? And so slowly but surely we take this walk. Slowly but surely we get an altar set up. Slowly but surely I realize different things that need to be done, and it all comes full circle. There are some things in this battle, and you know what, before I go to that, when I was remembering this last night, I called it the good old days. That's what I called it. This was heavy spiritual warfare. Heavy. This is when at the time they were paying for big spell work. So I know through me that there are some practitioners that received backfires that were overwhelming to receive, because this wasn't small spell work. This was heavy spell work. This is spell work you can physically feel on you, can physically feel on your shoulders, physically feel on your head. Possessions that they were sending, entities, all of this stuff that had to be sent back, launched back. I know this stuff was cleared up and sent back. Healing came. I wasn't passing away. I wasn't getting sick. I wasn't not showing up to work. I was showing up with strength. I was showing up with happiness. I was showing up eager. So me calling it the good old days is probably my family calling it the good old days. But it's something that, this is how you get through a battle. This is how you dodge the sickness that they're sending you. This is how you dodge those attacks. This is how you dodge the problems that they want to put in your life, is with prayer. Not a little bit of prayer, not light prayer, heavy prayer, heavy prayer, round the clock prayer, and gratitude, positive feelings, confidence in them. And then all you got to do from there is prepare your hands to catch blessings. So when you're going through this, and I've seen people go through this, and somebody said, when I prayed my spiritual warfare prayers, they attacked me harder. Yeah, because they know it works. Because they know that the prayers of the righteous availeth much. And what do they do when you're a righteous person? When you're a good person, when you're a good man, when you're a virtuous woman, when you're pure-hearted, when you're a good person, what do? They try to knock down the prayers, because they understand that the prayers are the reason that things are working in your life. They try to combat the prayers. They try to combat the prayers. There's some stuff that I want to mention before, some tips of the day before I am done here. But yeah, they try to combat your prayers. They try to knock you back. They try to fight you down. So at the time, I thought I was delusional, because I was like, listen, I have faith that you cannot penetrate, and it doesn't make sense compared to what I'm seeing around me, compared to what's happening around me. It doesn't make sense to have this much faith. My faith was impenetrable. And from that day till today, I've never even conjured up, I can't say entertain, I've never conjured up a feeling of quitting. Because when you go to war to win. You go to war with the expectation that this is going to be a war and a battle, and that this is going to be difficult. You do not go to war saying to yourself, well, I'm going to quit, or if this doesn't work, there's no plan B. Anything, whatever offer was they were trying to allude to, was an unacceptable condition. It was not something that could work for me, and so I didn't care what I had to go through. I was never concerned about losing anything. I mean, I had concerns about my financial stability. I had concerns about maybe not, no one wants to lose a store, no one wants to lose a house, but we just fortify and prepare ourselves for whatever is coming up. That's it. That's how we go. And we keep moving forward. And so if I lost something, I would say to my team, I don't know what that's about, but let's keep moving. Let's keep going. And they're leading me through. And there came a point where I started saying to them, I got to give you this situation, because I don't have enough information to make a decision here. I don't have enough information to figure out what to do. I don't know all the moving parts. I don't know what the pieces are, but I can tell that you guys do. And so I gave them the fight to lead it. And all I could do was give them my prayers. Now, this fight has gone on a long time. It's gone on a long time. And they have not told me things. And now I realize it was specifically for a purpose. They wanted me focused on what I was focused on. They didn't want me thinking about things outside. I didn't know the ramifications of refusing the offer that again was being alluded to, but I could feel the ramifications. I could feel it. I could feel that this would have been the worst decision that I could ever make if I ever went along with this. And so it was fortified to me. As I encountered people and they sent me in different places, and I knew they were sending me in places. I mean, maybe from the outside it might have looked to people that they were accomplishing things, but they were sending me because there were places I did not want to go. I wasn't going to go. I knew it wasn't a good idea. And they were like, you got to go. You got to go. You got to go. And so my heart is tugging me to something, but I don't want to go. I know in my heart this is not good. So I felt what was going on more than anything else. And the things that they were not telling me which you can tell when they're holding things back, because we don't keep things from each other. I know that my spirit team knows everything that's going on around me, and I still come and tell them because there's just a good feeling of sitting there and talking to them about everything, just telling them. And they listen so intently, they're so focused. And I would love if they would just talk back to me. I want to say in English, but in like, and just, but it was like I just appreciated them listening. And then sometimes I would feel happiness, I would feel that they were laughing, I would just kind of feel that energy. But I just kind of knew things, I just kind of felt things, and it was enough to navigate it. And there would always be times where tarot came in was not because tarot was telling me what I didn't know. It was tarot was confirming to me things I knew. So it was like I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. And so that's why I always said tarot helped me a lot. So anytime if I was like not sure of something, the tarot would come in and say, by the way, it's okay, you could do this, you could do that. And then it was a relief, like, okay, so this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I navigated all my problems, and I was strong in my battle, and the battle wore on more and more and more and more. And the most important thing for me always was, what are we doing today? What are we doing tomorrow? What's the path forward? And it wasn't like I couldn't tell that I wasn't in a dismal situation, or a situation where, like I said, you cannot build in war. And this was apparent to me that nothing I do here is 100% gonna work. It's not gonna flourish in the way that I want to, because I gotta clean this infestation up first. And I knew it was an infestation, spiritually and in all ways. This is something that is bombarding your spiritual house. It is coming from all directions. Every problem that comes here is measured. They are keeping stock of it. They are keeping stock of it. They're keeping their eye on your progress. And every time you have some progress that's coming through, you get a strategic distraction. It's like all of the little strategies were being exposed. All of the little strategies were being exposed. And I could see it in my mind's eye. I felt like there was a document with things that could be a problem to me, things that could be problematic. And I knew as they would drop, I'm like, okay, this is going to be the next thing that comes. Okay, this is going to be the next hurdle. Okay, this is going to crash. Okay, this is going to happen. And I also realized that I was spending a lot of my time doing a lot of nonsense, like trying to get back in email accounts and doing all of this kind of stupid stuff. And I was like, at a certain point, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. But I had to go through that, all of these things, all of these steps to see what was happening and why it was happening, and how I was being, the attempts to systematically destabilize me and destabilize my life. So I went through it. And so I've come up with some objectives that I realized that they had, and I didn't know all the objectives up front, but I started to realize things. So first things first, I realized that they were trying to make me sick because I was receiving the attacks. I was receiving repeated work that was being repeated, and it wasn't working over and over and over again. I was receiving that. Then another one of them was me not working, not earning, and basically not living the abundant, accomplished lifestyle that I had for myself. I had just purchased a new house, a beautiful house, what I would have called my dream house. I just purchased my home. I had to start putting things on standby because I didn't know what my team wanted me to do with it. I had just gotten stores in malls. I was just doing things that I hadn't done before, that I had worked really hard to accomplish. And the Destiny Harvester showed up as I was enjoying my rise. And I told my dream to someone who now knew what they wanted to block. He came in strategically as a fake friend and attempted to be a fake lover to glean information, to infect me with demonic energy, to turn me, to do all kinds of things. They want a death in some way, if not spiritual, then a suicide. They want you to go ahead and do that. Because they want you to hate life so much. They want you to get to the point where you hate life so much. Every day is a living nightmare, so that you get to the point where you're like, I don't want to be alive anymore. And I could see that. They definitely wanting you hating people, but not hating the people who hurt you, hating humanity. So almost not realizing that they're the ones behind everything that's happening, and that they're keeping you in such a tight bubble that they come in and infect every single person around you, so you think the whole world all of a sudden is gang stalkers, and that is not true. And to make you paranoid. They always want you to party, because I felt like they wanted to intoxicate me in some way. I felt like the objective was to get me drugged up, not alcohol, something else. That is how I felt. That is the feeling that came over me. Somebody's always inviting me to a party, inviting me to this, inviting me to that, and then turning around and doing spell work on camera, on Instagram lives, or not lives, but in their Instagram stories, blood work, spell work. So witches kept inviting me out. I felt like that's why it didn't surprise me when I heard in tarot that they're trying to get you addicted to drugs. It didn't surprise me. Definitely one of the agendas is to torture you daily, to make you hate your life. They wanted to own my business, and I can see it in every way. They want to send the models. They send you models. They send you, if not models, they send you they sent me photographers. They've tried to force web developers on me. There's been web developers that have come over and over. There's been photographers that have come in asking, can they use my clothing? It's just been over and over and over the same things, and everything has to do with owning your business. Everything has to do with, listen, there are people who are in this thing and they have a business and they don't know that they don't own the website. Maybe they knew now. They don't own the website. They don't own the social media page. They don't have the password. They don't own the email. They don't own these things. These are not theirs. They don't own it. And because they don't own it, these people keep taking things from them. And that is very important. They always want your passwords. They always want these things so that they can say, well, we own it, so we're going to destabilize it when it's working. I'm telling you, it's thievery. So you got to be able to be strapped up in the spirit the way they try to strap up in the physical. You got to make sure that your ancestors have these people at the end of a barrel, always. Always. They want to own you or to get rid of you, whether that is energetically or physically. It doesn't matter. If they can't own you, they want to discard you, they will sacrifice you. There were things that were strategic. Like I had a last will and testament that has been locked up for years that all of a sudden I put out on my counter. Now, why did I do that? There were so many baits that were set, so many traps that were set all along the way that I sit back and I realized to myself, that was a trap. They definitely tried to kidnap me. I know that for sure. Early on, they definitely tried to kidnap me. They tried during COVID to put me in a situation. They tried to kidnap me. They tried to do something to me. Because the way it came, like they did. They tried to get men to date me, men to talk about having kids with me from the first day, first conversation. If I didn't want to talk to someone, the person would lash out at me. On a dating app, would lash out and say, how can you feel settled in life? You're so young. Someone who doesn't know me. People ask very targeted questions. Have you moved yet? On social media, on dating apps. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a crazy time. And all of these things I've come through. And there was a certain point where they realized from the time that I called in my spiritual help, these people have been body slammed. They hide their wounds. But we know they've been suffering worse than I have. From the first wrong move, there have been consequences. When my relationship broke, the practitioner's relationship broke. Things will fall apart in your life when you put your hands on the wrong people energetically. But they couldn't get out of it. Now, I don't know if the initial client was just somebody who is, I don't know who the initial client is, but I know they involved these very dangerous people, and now they are at the end of the barrel of that gun, and they got to get that done. Because those people, they took money. They did something, the tide changed. They got more funding, the spell work came back heavier, and because of my spiritual protection, somebody wanted something and they said they're going to go to the top. They're not going to waste time on going to certain deities, certain gods. They're going to go to the top. They're going to get something at the top. And I knew they did. I could feel it. I knew that they went hard. And whatever they got, I felt as soon as it binded them. It binded right away. It didn't even wait for things to get bad. It binded. They knew it and I knew it because they tethered. They tethered to me energetically, and I was all up in these people's business. I didn't need to hack anything. I didn't need to get a password. I didn't need to get an email. I didn't need to get anything. Every time there was a change, I saw it. From binding on that energy right away, because things were falling out of their hands. They took my business and made me lose my location. They had to shut their doors down. Right away, they had to shut their doors down. Whatever they did to me was happening to them. Immediately. That's what happens when you bind to. When you bind to someone, you're going to suffer like they suffer. You open a portal in hell with a twin flame, you're going to be in hell. This is how it goes. They should have read up about twin flames properly before they tried to be a twin flame. So I just had to hold on while we dragged them to the pits of hell, to the 9th circle. Actually, they went to the 9th circle to go get that entity, because that entity is not surface level entity. That's like in the 9th circle. That's a heavy one. But they wanted a heavy hitter to deal with the energy that they were dealing with, because it wasn't one person suffering, it was as a group. They were getting breakups as a group. They were losing businesses as a group. They were losing their health as a group, to the point the whole group is sick. They're coming in my store sick. They're working through terminal illnesses, in and out of the hospital, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And they're lucky if they come out. Illnesses that are making people not be able to speak, massive strokes. People are on death's doorstep, hanging on by a thread, still doing evil. Businesses are tumbleweeds in and out of the... It doesn't matter if you are a conglomerate corporation. You weren't making any money. What you seek, you shall find. You hold hands with the devil. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But you just thought he wouldn't do it to you, because you summoned him and you lit candles and you fed him and you prayed to him, and you thought he wasn't going to drain of your energy. You thought he wasn't going to use you. He didn't care about these people at all. This was just a means to an end. And he's been around long enough to know that what he wanted to do has never been done before. He didn't care. He didn't care. The greatest of men couldn't do it. Why would the least of men be able to do it? They just saw something desperate. It was an opportunity. It was like, why not? I can gain proximity to this energy that I've wanted proximity to. So I will go through by any means. So I'm being watched through this thing, and I'm watching them dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And I thought, there's envy at play. Because envy, maybe that's Moloch. Maybe Moloch is represented by envy. Envy, when it gets so potent, manifests as a demon. And the demon of envy is like envy, walking envy, floating envy itself. The energy of envy will make you worse than you began. The energy of envy is the dog with the bone who looked at itself in the river and dropped its own bone to go after an illusion, a mirage. This is what happened here. Prior to doing all of this, people had a little cabal that was working, it was feeding itself, and they dropped everything, hyper fixated on an illusion. And still to this day, to this very second, to this very minute, continue to chase something that has proven itself to be a losing cause. But the thing about it is, they binded themselves to it. They binded themselves to the illusion when they kept looking for funding in like the wrong places, in the wrong hands. So in all of this now, at the point where we get to the point of the part where they get the entity, I realized that the deal with the entity was that if they could get me to bow to the entity, if they could sacrifice me to the entity, then they would get what they needed. That's what I realized. And you know, when that came to me, I thought to myself, I felt almost compassion. I felt almost just sad hearing that, because I was like, I wish they had asked me, because that's not possible. I wish someone would have asked me, would you ever consider, before going down this road, before binding? They should have, you know, they have their little strategic ways. They should have done something, because that was never going to happen. And I realize now why. I thought about it and I said, how comes no one on my team even told me, asked me? They didn't even warn me. It's because they too knew that that could never happen, because this is not the first lifetime. I am one who has walked proudly to my end, serving who I serve, believing what I believe. I am it has already been proven. We've already come through that. There is no test to that. There is nothing that will take me or take my family out of my heart. And there is nothing, you know, if somebody wants my heart, wants my devotion, somebody, some entity, some energy, they gotta go to my family for it, because I gave it to them already long time ago. So it would not have been possible, awake or unawake. But I don't know if perhaps maybe it wasn't clear that I was awake, or maybe they knew I was awake. It was wishful thinking. Maybe people were under stress. Maybe it was envy. It was definitely heavy doses of delusions of grandeur, God complexes. You know, when you think you're better than people and stuff, like, there was a lot at play here. But I felt compassion when it came to me, and I said, oh, this is the fourth energy that they want to talk about putting on the altar, is Satan. I wish someone would have not wasted their time. See how communication is very important. Because when you communicate, you avoid yourself and everybody who's ever held hands with you losses. You avoid losses. I wish I had the opportunity, and I'm sure they wish too, to have said, maybe explore another option, because I would die before I let that happen. And you're not gonna get my kids either. It's not gonna happen. Not for a that's when we turn into Dr. What is it, Dr. Seuss? Not in a tree, not for $1 billion, not for all the fame in the world, not to stay alive. We do not want green eggs and ham. Okay, it's not gonna happen. That's crazy. That was how I realized this battle is already won. Forget the binding, forget all of that. It would never occur. Ever. So now, when you find yourself in a situation where people are annoying you at best with frivolities, because again, you haven't fallen sick, you haven't stopped working, you haven't passed away, you have absolutely no ideations of suicide, you do not hate humanity, they cannot hurt you physically, you're well known in your city, well known, people know you, the gossip machine has been in high gear. You know when you can know when people are talking about you? I have never felt such an overwhelming, stressful feeling of people talking about me before in my life. The gossip mills. And whoever didn't know me now knows me. They've made me famous. People recognize me on the streets every day I go outside. So at least one person. It's bizarre. At least one person everywhere I go recognizes me. They've made me famous. People have heard of me. They're not torturing me. I definitely am not going to worship Baal or Beelzebub or whatever that is. And they do not own my business. And they're exposed. People know what's going on. Their tricks are out. The most they can do is annoy with small frivolities, trivial things like beauty spells, which wouldn't change anything. I could be riddled with acne, fat to the point I need 2 chairs, lose all my hair and my teeth and my eyesight, whatever it is that they've drummed up, and still be on here giving the same messages every day. It wouldn't make a difference. Always, 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 to what end? Pimples to what end? Pimples to what end? Headaches to what end? What end? All we do is we heal it, we clean it, and then it doesn't affect us. Rapid healing. What worked on Monday doesn't work on Wednesday. What worked on Tuesday doesn't work on Wednesday. Simple. That's why I consider it a crash course. And you got to look at your life like a crash course. You know, a long, long, long time ago, men like Galileo, they would bring on someone who's an apprentice, and this is how universities began. Higher levels of learning came from very learned people. So if you could paint Leonardo da Vinci, you would get an apprentice, somebody who would be under you, who would learn. Not a classroom, you're not a teacher, but you just have one person, they follow you around and they learn. Do you necessarily sit them down to teach them, or do they watch? That's how they learn. They learn by watching. They carry your bags, they wash your paintbrushes, they do whatever. That's what they see. It's the proximity to you. That's how they learn. And these people would usually be people whose families have a lot of money. So they're either the sons of kings or noblemen or whatever. Because to get Galileo's time and attention, somebody who has come down in even our history books, this is someone very important in their time. You have to be very important, but they're not picking a whole class. It's 1 or 2 people at max that I've read about. If I'm wrong, please do correct me, okay? I'm not a historian. Um, and that's how I felt during this process. I felt like I have gotten a very close view at perhaps this individual wasn't who this person when they started, but they had no choice but to learn. And in their process, everything that happened, my purpose was to walk my path. So if I'm under the tutelage of a left hand path, then as a right hand pather, I'm learning how to cleanse, I'm learning how to heal, I'm learning how to deflect. I have something where I should have read it before, where I talk about what the left hand and the right hand path is as far as it comes to magic. So when you explore a right hand path, when that is the path you take to spirituality, what is happening is you're in a fight and other people are draining time, energy, which is their life force. I'm not just talking about the energy to get up and work. I'm talking about their life force. They're draining life force. They're training resources, which includes money and people. They're expending people in battles. And they eventually become preoccupied with frivolities because people go at the biggest fish first. So the biggest things that they want to happen, they go to those things first, and then it dwindles all the way down to very trivial things. You know, doing things that are very small, doing things that are very silly, that do not need to happen. Someone's trying to blow out my candle. Give me a second here. So eventually it leads to a total loss, but it leads to a loss at their hands. They've drained their time, they've drained their energy and their life force, they've drained their own resources, and they've preoccupied themselves with actions just to say they're taking an action, but it's not an action that's yielding results. They put themselves in a position where they cannot be reasoned with, and eventually a team has no choice but to abandon that kind of situation because it seems to be hinging on lunacy. It is dependent on losing. It just proves itself to be unfit to lead. And that's if it is leading anything at all. Sometimes these are one-man operations or one-woman operations where people launch into like a crazy attack on you and they won't stop. There is no easy path forward in those kind of situations because it's almost like once they've started and they've incited a war and they feel the energy coming at them, that's how they're going to behave. So in situations like that, people end up sacrificing a war to win a battle. So it's very nearsighted. If you understand far seeing and near seeing, it's very nearsighted. They want to win a battle today. They want to get a punch in, and it's not taking into consideration that the war is already lost. So once you enter into a battle with left-hand people that operate this way, it's not just impossible to win, it's impossible to stop. Once it has started, it's going to be impossible to depart. So it is easier to let people fight and defeat themselves than to fight them in return, no matter what they think about you, no matter if they think that you're doing it or not. All you need to do is hold up a mirror so people can see themselves. That's what people call karma. You hold up a mirror and they can see themselves. And as they send things, it's hitting the image in the mirror, and that's their image. It's not hitting you. They think that it's hitting you, but it's not. And in this situation, people see it. Now, when people have come to a point where all they have is spell work is all they know, you have to understand that they're not going to stop. They're not going to quit. They're going to continue beating down on you all the time, or trying to beat down on you, but it's not going to work, because you do not have to put up with this energy. You do not have to hold hands with this energy. You do not have to meet this energy where it is. You simply have to clean your energy, clean your space, and take care of yourself, and you'll be fine. And like I said in the beginning of this video, you do not even need to fight all of these battles. Like some battles you're invited to, you do not need to fight it. Give me a second here. So this is my best advice for dealing with your spiritual battles. I'm going to summarize again. First things first, you don't need to go nuke for nuke with people. You simply need to learn how to cleanse yourself, cleanse your energy. Cleansing, I never knew that people do spell work and they don't have any antidotes. They depend on me for my antidotes. They're asking me for my cures. It's crazy. That's mortifying and embarrassing. That's like a scientist who's developing viruses in a lab and hasn't thought, well, oh my goodness, if this ends up coming back, what would I do? They don't have any antidotes. And there is no antidote to your own work anyway. There is no, a lot of these people, maybe, I don't know if they just walk it out through backfires. I don't know how it works, but there seems to be no antidotes to whatever's going on here. You need to cleanse yourself though. You need to take care of yourself. People are sitting in spell work that has been repeated over and over, and they're calling it dews. I don't know what this is yet. I'm gonna look it up. DEWS. I don't know what a dew is. They're calling it government warfare and all that. And no, 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 no. I think you need to pray a lot, because even if it was government warfare, you still need to pray. Prayer works against everything. It's not just the prayer only works because it's spell work. Prayer works against everything. Prayer shields you from everything. That's why they use spell work for everything. They use it against court officials. They use it in court cases. They use it to, they don't care, because they understand energy to some degree, not fully, but they understand to some degree. They just don't understand left-hand path. They don't understand light workers. They are learning now. They're trying to learn. They're trying to collect information, and they're not seeing clearly. Their vision's definitely still being blocked if they're still fighting. But this is where we are at with it. In order for you to get through your mess, you gotta learn as well. You gotta learn what they're doing. You gotta monitor yourself closely. You think you gotta monitor the enemy and know what they're doing? You gotta monitor yourself. Measure and weigh everything. How much am I sleeping in the day? How much am I eating? How much am I moving? What have I abandoned? Where are my distractions? You gotta watch yourself. Every time a problem starts, what was I doing when this problem starts? What was I doing when this phone call came in? What was I doing when this distraction came in? Learn, learn, document. That's what you learned in science very early, is how you document according to everything that's happening. That's how you get to a hypothesis. You don't just pick it out your behind and say something and then believe in it. It must be supported by fact, and by recordable fact, verifiable fact, so that when you get to the point that you can truly assess something, it's a real assessment, not nonsense that you made up in your imagination. You have to be able to say to yourself, this happens every single time, and then test it. Test it. Do that thing and see what happens. You got to catch yourself. The first time you succumb to something is not a bad thing. The second, third time even that something hits you is still not is a bad thing, because your spiritual body builds immunity just like your physical body. You go through spiritual warfare. The first warfare that you go through is rough. There are immunities I have now because of initial warfares that I've gone through. So now I understand how to protect myself, what to do, and how to do it. You want to bring yourself to a point where you can have a bag, you can have a toolkit, as I call it, where you know how to address things because you've been through it over and over. One thing about witches who are left-hand pathers, they will rework the same spell over and over again if they do not see it working. They will rework it. And sometimes the backfire doesn't come back until it hits a certain point, and then it just drops in all of the reworking at the same time. Sometimes it's hitting other people that they're not looking at, people in their family, in their friend group, in their network, and they're wondering where it's going, and the whole time it's going back to them, but just not to them. So what are they doing? Creating their own problems. Now, I know there's suspended spell work here for a fact. There's no way all the work that was done has gone back. I know it and they know it. There's no way it's all gone back. It is suspended somewhere. I know this for a fact. I know it. It hasn't hit. If that stuff hit, it would be pandemonium and chaos. So you have to allow people to be wrong. This is something I learned early, allowing people to be wrong, allowing people to be wrong about you, allowing people to believe the wrong thing. Like if somebody says 1 + 1 is 5, then you just gotta go with it. Let it be. You gotta let them do what they're gonna do, whatever strategy that people are looking for, let them do it, because the one thing that you have in your corner is your innocence. You never looked to destroy anyone. You never looked to attack anyone. No matter what is said about you physically here, spiritually in the spirit knows that you are not guilty of assaulting anyone. So you just have to stand back and let things play out. And that's one thing I've realized is I gotta let it play out. I gotta let it play out. But all I can do on my path is learn. All I can do is take everything that does occur and look at how it could be beneficial to me and how it has been beneficial to me, and just know that whatever's happening is happening in my favor. Even when it looks dismal. Now, I can't always find the silver lining. I'm not gonna lie to you. I cannot always find it, but it is there. And one thing I realize is whether or not I realize what the silver lining is, as long as I go with the flow, I will be fine. I don't push back on things when things happen, when things hit me. It is all for my greater good in some way, shape, or form. It works to my benefit, whether now or in future, whether I see it, even though I gotta take the loss in the moment. I realized that my spirit team had this covered way better than I thought. I was nearsighted. I was looking at just today or this month or this week, and they had already known, like, There were times where like, imagine this battle was already won in the beginning of 2023, that we all were just spinning our tires. There was gonna be no way I was gonna serve a false god. That's when the battle was won completely, in my mind. Maybe my spirit team said it was won from way before, but in my mind, if that was what it it hinged on, oh my goodness, that was already lost. That wasn't gonna happen. That was not gonna happen. So there's that. There are gonna be things that are gonna continue to happen to you until the bitter end. But you must understand that the mess needs to be cleaned up. There are things that you want to do or things that you want to enjoy still in life, and those things are things for people who are not under spiritual attack in the way that you're under spiritual attack. You have to address the battle. It's not that you don't plant, it's not that you don't cultivate seeds, it's not that you don't do the work. You absolutely should do the work, but you must understand that doing the work is going to require, I'm going to jump to something I want to talk about, solutions. Solutions work through continued implementation, through the focus on the problem, not deflecting the problem and reworking it. Really looking at what is the actual problem. Sometimes we are in denial of what the problem is. Everybody who's scared of losing is in denial of what the problem is. Everybody keeps thinking, oh, there's another way, and there's focus on the actual issue at hand. Your issue is you are being spiritually attacked. So you got to focus on that spiritual side. They're not physically coming and punching you and shaking you, and in my case they physically stole from me, but they're not physically coming and doing things like that. They're doing it spiritually. So if they're doing things energetically and spiritually, you cannot handle it by complaining. You cannot handle it by grumbling. You cannot handle it by talking about it all day. You got to do things spiritually. Take spiritual action. You got to pray. You got to go into the spirit and pray. You are under war. So these prayers need to be spiritual warfare prayers. You need to be grateful for every part of what you have, and you need to continue in your walk, continue in your journey, continue in your fight, continue to push forward. Every day is a new day to get a new solution. Every single day. There's not going to be a day that you're going to get to sit back. Things I want to say, tips of the day, and reworking. Listen, you need to rework. If it takes years of reworking, you rework. Years of starting over, years of fixing, you fix. It doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. It doesn't. And the reason I say all of this is because, listen, there are companies that have been reworking things forever. Sometimes reworking is just building upon something old, but sometimes it's ripping everything down and starting from scratch. Because you got to assess what you have. Does this make sense or not? I'm not just talking about in business. I'm not just talking about in work. I'm talking about in life in general. What I'm doing, is it making sense? Is it working in my benefit? Do I need to start over? Do I need to try another way? What worked in the past that I'm not doing now? I've reworked things and gone back to practices that I had, let go of things. You got to keep moving. You got to keep working things, improving them as the circumstances change, and you got to keep doing things that may seem like they're not working, like protection work. Even though you think the protection work is not working, what does it cost you to just have it laying there? Nothing. Because in time you will see that it worked. The first time that these people start crossing protection work, I noticed their energy depleted. That's what protection work does. It depletes life force. When the life force is weak, the auric field is weak. When the auric field is weak, all the work comes in clean and clear. What point is spiritual protection if your life force on your vessel is weak? What can a spiritual protector do for you when you have weak life force? They can't. What are they working with? The vessel itself is sick. The vessel itself, and they're not dealing with healing energy, they're dealing with satanic energy. This energy is programmed to destroy. This is not programmed to heal. So you have to understand your enemy, understand their limitations and what they're going through for you to get yourself to a point where you say to yourself, well, if this is what they're doing, if they're to the point where they're going to be consistently attacking, they're working with energy that's not healing, this is the attack that is being reworked now all the time. What can I do to assist my spirit team in what they're doing? It is important to have your protection work up. Doesn't matter if they cross it or not. It is okay. They will cross it. They will feel they have no choice but to cross it. It is what it is. So, in conclusion, you need a positive attitude, a positive attitude, a positive attitude. You need to have a positive attitude, a positive mindset. You need to be very grateful. Now, it's very hard to have, I repeated positive attitude so much, it's very hard to have a positive attitude when you're being attacked spiritually, your health is failing, and every minute something else comes in. I know it wears you down. It's been years. The path to get here is hard. It is a struggle to pull yourself out of these demotivating thoughts, this daunting feeling, needing help from everywhere, needing people to help you, wrong mentality. You must pull your socks up and help yourself. Positive attitude, positive affirmations, talking to yourself, encouraging yourself, coaching yourself, even if it's with delusion, it starts there. And then once you get to that point and you feel, then you have to little by little motivate yourself, motivate yourself, motivate yourself, motivate yourself. That's how it feels. It feels like climbing an uphill battle of motivating yourself. Motivating yourself to get to the point where finally you can take care of yourself properly. You can feel good. You can feel at peace. You can feel strong. But it takes pulling yourself out of that place. So don't expect for it to work on the first day of encouragement. You're going to have to keep encouraging yourself with blind faith and pushing forward. So it takes a strong spiritual belief. You're going to motivate yourself. It's going to take a minimum of 3 months at least. You need at least 100 days of doing something to get in the habit of doing it, a firm habit of doing it. So you have to be very strict with yourself. For your meditation and your prayers, it will be attacked. This is being attacked for me for 2 years, but I still get all the benefits from it. It doesn't matter if you get a message from God, a download, what, it's not what it's about. It's just doing it, focusing on it, and making sure you do it all the time. If I stopped doing it, I wouldn't have gotten the benefits of it. It's being attacked for a reason. So you must continue doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing. You're going to have more ineffective meditations than you're going to have good meditations in the beginning. This is a lifelong skill. You're going to have more bad than good. It gets better. In the beginning, a good meditation, a deep meditation for me was so rare that if I got one, it was like, oh my God. It took so long to learn because you got to learn to quiet your mind. It's not an easy thing, but it gets easier over time. And you learn in peaceful times, and then it is retested in difficult times because here comes the storms. Here comes the physical pain. So when you start this habit, always know that it is going to be attacked, and it's going to continue to be attacked, especially as they face backfires, the attacks will get harder. They will blame you for the backfires. So you have to know that you have to be even stronger. When you first start something, you got to go harder with it. The harder the attack, the harder you have to push towards it. I have gotten all the benefits of my prayers and my meditations, whether or not they were the best prayers or the best meditations every single day, didn't change the fact of the commitment to it and the commitment to seriously doing it and seriously trying and giving it a good shot at working. So you have to adapt to the attacks that you get, and then you have to overcome them. You got to overcome them because you got to do it. You can't feel daunting feelings when you think about doing things that you have to do. You got to get it done. You got to be motivated. You got to push through. So my tip of the day is for people who have to deal with customers or people, they are able to put energy over you where people perceive you in another way. Wash your face with lemon or lime and salt. Make sure you close your eyes, obviously, but wash your face with lemon, lime, and salt, because this will, and water, obviously, because this will clean off that energy off of you. Take regular baths. Always have these things handy to yourself. This will deal with a number of things. Soak in the tub, soak out things spiritually and energetically off of you in this way. And the second thing, and also wash your hands. So there is something that I've heard you guys describe where it's like, oh, they're putting toxic gases into my space. There's toxic gases into my, I've heard of somebody say it's a hotel room and stuff like that. No, it's not. That's an energy that they're using. I don't know. I call her a poison ivy. I know it's a female energy, and you got to tackle her head on. You know, if you can't handle it yourself spiritually, then you have your spirit team handle it. And you know, if she likes her energy so much, you got to block her in with it, box her in with it. It does smell like a very poisonous energy, because that's what it is. She's cursing you. She's cursing your space. She's cursing your altar. And you can, if you have the ability to smell it, you'll smell it on your hand spiritually. So you got to wash up. You got to clear it. If you don't want to use lemon, lime, and water, you can use incense. You can use sage. You can use other cleansing elements and launch her energy back to her. She likes it. She can eat it. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. She shouldn't even be in your space. It's not safe. It's not safe for her to come into your space. It's not safe. And sometimes you need to drive the point home more aggressively each time, because sometimes they don't get it. If you do the same things over and over, it needs to be more and more aggressive. Now, the second thing is with energy harvesting. If you notice that you begin to wake up after sleeping so long and you're tired, then wake up earlier. I know it's a counterproductive thing. You think you need to sleep more. You need to wake up earlier, because they're just draining your energy. And when they either try to put you to sleep or they try to drain the energy, one or the other. I think what they do is they put you to sleep first and then they drain the energy from you. When their energy is weak because they tried to send you this energy draining energy, so you wouldn't work, so you wouldn't get things done, and it backfired because you cleansed it, they'll want to harvest your own energy for them to be able to stay up, to stay awake. If they are exhausted, you give them none of your energy. You get up, you do work, you go for a run, you go for a walk, you pray, you do something, but you do not give them of your energy. Maintain good sleep schedules, maintain the same sleep schedules. If you wake up tired, then you wake up tired, then it is what it is. And you get along your day, because some of this is not real exhaustion, it's spiritual exhaustion. And it's just meant to put delays in your path. Monitor yourself closely. Like spiritually weigh yourself every day, measure yourself every day, and note even very, very, very minor variances. It is the beginning of things, and then you start to clear it off. Take your time with your journey. It is a learning journey, but implement prayer. Grumbling and complaining is demotivating. You remain grateful, because there's always something to be happy about. Your situation will improve incrementally, step by step, as you continue to take one step after another step. You start with your spirit team and you push forward from there. And you need a team of spirits, not just one, because you're dealing with gang stalking. You're not dealing with battling one witch. You're dealing with societies, covens, societies. Societies are coming at just you because they know who you are spiritually. So you got to make sure you handle all of that pressure. Handle it. Send that work back. It's not your energy. You don't keep what is not yours. So I have videos here on my playlist that talk about how to do return to senders, how to protect your energy, how to cleanse your energy. Please go look at those playlists. It's literally giving practical information. But let me tell you, I wasn't given any of this information. I learned it on the ground running. Sometimes that's the point of an ascension, is for you to learn things on the ground running. You got to give yourself time with it. Give yourself time with it. Give yourself time with your process. I just took whatever I knew and I built upon that, getting advice from my spirit team. So don't ever feel I don't like when cards knock out of my hands like that. That's spiritual manipulation. That's not how cards come out. You gotta be wary and you gotta read through things and make sure things are from your spirit team and not spiritual manipulation. Especially when you're pulling cards on live, or especially when people energetically have some kind of access to you. Give me a second here. Yeah, you have to, if you pull cards, you got to be careful of how the cards fall out. If the cards are knocked out of your hands like that, that's not how you want cards to come out. And you can look at it and you can see sometimes, like, you'll get, I remember one time I opened my Bible and I got this verse about the prophet of God passing away, and that is contradictory to the message that God gave. But that's what sometimes people do in order to make you feel, in order to send you a threat and stuff like that. It's like a lot of things. Listen, I'm at a point in my journey where a lot of things are beneath me. It's childlike. I don't need to participate in this stuff. I never did. But a first battle of this intensity, for someone, you're bound to get involved in some way, and your spirit team lets you, because you need some of that momentum anyway. But it does get to a point where it just is pointless, and you can see it's like swinging at the air, and you can feel that you've learned all that you can learn from an energy like this, and you just have to just not take things like this seriously. In my situation, getting death threats is nonsensical, because this is so blown out. And I mean, even if somebody else were to, try to unalive me now, they're gonna come for the person I've been filing all the reports on. It's just pointless stuff. It's swinging at the air. So you got to get yourself to the point where you recognize your situation for what it is. I no longer even, I'm at a place where my spirit team can tell me things, because I don't react the same way to things. There is nothing that I am not shocked about anymore. There is no more shock in me. I expect the most bottom of the barrel behavior, and especially now that I know it is, we say it's demonic and we say it's satanic, but when you have confirmation that it's really truly Satan at work here, you're like, oh, I don't care. I don't want to be involved in this. Let it be what it is. And that's just all you can do. Let it be what it is. So the card I got here is, you are so much closer to a powerful breakthrough than you may realize. You have been praying for things to heal and new opportunities to appear, relationships to improve, and these prayers will be answered soon. Sometimes you have been in a fight with gang stalking. I've seen people in a fight 7 years, 10 years, 14 years, all of this. And you are no further ahead than you started because of the attitude that you're in. You're not in an attitude of solutions. You're not in an attitude of things working. You're not in an attitude of growing. You're not in an attitude of learning. You're just in an attitude of suffering and accepting your suffering as it is. And that is probably the worst way to go through anything. Because if a fight is going to be hard, it's going to be hard. But you need to also do some work as far as like do some work as far as learning, at least not just learning to learn, but learning to have solutions. It doesn't take much to sit there with a problem and look at it and say, okay, how can I navigate this? How can I, if not block this, ease the tension of it? How can I work towards it? And when it doesn't work, you rework it. When it doesn't work, you keep thinking of something else. Well, how else can I go about it? How else can it be done? You can't just sit with problems and sit and soak in spell work. It is no good. Spell work is something that needs to be immediately addressed. Multiple cleansings need to happen, and sometimes one cleansing is not enough. Cleansings need to be routine. People try to come in your energy. They don't try. They come in your energy and they curse you while you sleep. They come in your energy and they try to cast over projections on you. I will not make it. I don't have money. I have anxiety. They say, I listen to this stuff. So trust me, these illusions that people are painting, they're doing a lot. They're exhausting themselves to come against you, and you gotta combat that. You gotta cloak yourself in prayers, cloak yourself in peace, cloak yourself in trust in God, cloak yourself in the belief. People pretend at this stage that they don't believe in God, but trust me, the people that are suffering at the hands of God believe in God, and in private they cry to God. They are suicidal. Anybody coming through protection work repeatedly is suicidal. They are binded. They are stuck. And everybody that binds with these energies, imagine working with an energy that is binded to Satan. This is worse than a curse. And walking around thinking that they are accomplishing anything, this is worse than a curse. This is a self-inflicted curse. You curse yourself to eternity in hell, like you're not coming back. But these things that people keep doing and keep digging deeper. So, initially, just sharing this last tidbit, initially in my situation, it was just about breaking up a relationship, and then it came about energy harvesting. And in order to do the energy harvesting, binding me to an organization, and then it was making sure the binding to the organization worked, because that's where they got the funding. And then it became, now it's down to appeasing the entity, because it's like, oh well, because we haven't appeased the entity, that's why things are falling apart. They want to blame you, but they know it's the promise that they made to the entity that has not been fulfilled, and it's not being repaid, and it can't be repaid. And so now there's this urgent push, well, let's pay the entity and things are going to improve. Both the entity, really what God came here for, everything along the journey, all the scenery on the journey, the storyline that it was set on, all of this was really just about getting this entity. This really was about the entity. It wasn't about any of the key players here. But if other people wanted to bind themselves to that and get themselves cleaned out at the same time, then they could. But it has always been about the entity. All other players on here, it's never been about any one human being. It's been about the entity. This is the revelation that saved me, is understanding that they wanted to get Ball out of here. So if a blood binding wasn't necessary, just even inviting it in would have been bad enough. But there are multiple people here that have engaged in this kind of behavior, and it really is about the entity. So if the entity has custodial rights, it's going to grab what it has to grab, and it's going to take it and go. So be very careful with what you put on altars and what you pray to. And I've given the advice to take down the altar, and I know people think it's not. Anyway, the crystal of the day is selenite. It's one of my favorite crystals. It's a crystal of healing and connecting to the higher realms. I'm not going to read what it says on this card, because I'm going to just show you what selenite looks like. Selenite is a stone you use to heal your body, both your energetic body and your spirit body, when there are attachments on you. I'm not gonna give you false hope that selenite is gonna clean blood bindings or like these kind of like covenants that you make. You can, if you make a covenant with a spirit, it is a pact. Spirits are not like human beings. There are no gray areas. Human beings will be like, oh, this is going to happen and that is going to happen. And you're like, and then later on, they're like, well, you didn't really believe me. I wasn't being literal. Spirits are being literal when they talk. They're literally, they are being literal. So if you make covenants with spirit, nothing is going to clean that out. A deal is a deal. A promise is a promise. That's how I say it. So you got to follow through on that. And if the spirits are just gentle about it with you, it's not like you have a choice. However, if you have smaller entities or things where maybe people put them on you, you were in an agreement, things like that, selenite helps with that. Selenite is a slow healer. It is not fast. You got to leave selenite on you for long periods of time. So there are people who wear it. Selenite doesn't need to be cleaned. It cleans other crystals. So I usually pair other crystals with my selenite for them to also be cleansed. It to me is like a master crystal. If you start with any crystals, any two, it would be obsidian and selenite, one to heal and clean and one to block. You got to clean your crystals regularly, but selenite is essentially salt. It's a salt-based crystal, so it doesn't need any cleaning. What will happen is it will disintegrate as it does its work. Please look into cleansing. Look into every form of spiritual cleansing. If you've been a TI for 14 years, you need like 6 months of cleansing, honestly. Like, you need to be cleansed so hard. You need to pull things out of everywhere. You need to be praying. You need so much healing work. If you have gone through that much without, because you gotta heal disabilities, you gotta heal organs, you gotta heal all kinds of things. You need a lot of therapy. But it's something you can do. You start today, one step at a time, before you let these people pull you into the grave. Because this is what they're trying to do. They are not just doing this because somebody paid them. They're doing it because they recognize you are a divine being and they don't want you here. They don't want you to exist. They don't want the message to be told. So they will do anything that they can possibly do to have that done. So anyway, that is my message of the day. Thank you. Have a great day. And remember that God loves you.